What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? Welcome to Wednesday's episode. So Monday and Tuesday, we go over our topics. So Monday's episode dealt with a USB explosive. So about 5 of these things were mailed out, causing damage to hands and faces when they blew up. So definitely tune in for that one. Tuesday, we discussed the creation of a 7th military branch, the cyber branch, potentially, and just our thoughts about that. The 2 crusty, retired Air Force members and how we feel about that. So definitely tune in for that. And then today, our discussion revolves around an article that I found from TechCrunch entitled "Natives Rising Wins Backing to Help Native Americans into Tech and Startups." So as we discuss, the purpose of the show, right, is to kind of showcase and highlight people of color who are either in cybersecurity or trying to break into cybersecurity. Specifically, this show tries to bring in people who are already in those C-suite and senior level positions to kind of show how they got there, their career progression, their challenges and hurdles and things of that nature, because we make up such a small portion of cyber, about 8%. And then women make up even a smaller percentage of cybersecurity based upon population, right? Because there's over half the population are women, but a very small amount of them are in cybersecurity. I think like 16% or something like that. So bigger than overall Black population in cybersecurity, but still very disproportionate to cyber in general, right? Most of cyber is one type of person, right? White male makes up a good 67% or 72% or something like that. It's a very high number of people in the field, especially in senior and C-suite positions. So this article, to go back to it, was written by Mike Butcher. It says, according to the National Center for Education Statistics, Black, Latina, and Native American women represent approximately 16% of the total U.S. population, but make up only 4% of students obtaining bachelor's degrees in computing. On this trend, women of color receiving computer degrees will not double until 2052, which is pretty far away still, by which time they would be an even smaller proportion of all graduates. And out of the data emerges the fact that Native American women are least likely to benefit from the wealth and opportunity of tech industry, and those obtaining computer degrees, only 0.1% of them are Native women. So very, very small percentage. And this article kind of breaks some of that down and just opportunities, hopefully in the future, to grow that population. So we've talked about in the past how you have your Apples, Microsofts, your Googles, Bell South, like building pipelines in Black communities, specifically near or around BCUs. To kind of draw that talent in. Again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where it's a matter of access, right? Like not only are these opportunities not necessarily in our communities, but also once we are in the pipeline, there aren't people who look like us, who represent us in those senior positions that will allow us to have that bridge to access, right? We're not asking for a hand out, we're asking for a hand up. And this article specifically goes into how the Native female population is even smaller of a population, which are not going to necessarily benefit from this big tech boom in IT and cybersecurity until 2052 at the earliest, by which there'll be even smaller population potentially within a bigger pool of people who are vying for these jobs. So how you feel about this, Shannon?
So I got a couple views on this, right? So like I would be curious to know of these women, right? So let's just say high school graduates, right? And I know this isn't the case, and I don't want this to come off to sound how it may sound, but like, are they getting learning from schools that are not on reservations? Are they getting learning from schools on reservations, which is a way smaller percentage, right? Like, are we talking about women that are just graduating out of Oklahoma, Nebraska, places where federal land is, that has schools that are severely underfunded, right? Like they don't get a lot of money for their education when it comes to those reservations and where they're learning. Now, here's the thing. I know that's not the only place where they're graduating from, but is that one of those things where even in the article they talk about access to wealth and things of that nature, right? So maybe they're not getting the opportunities, you know what I mean? Because I know there are scholarships and things like that for Native Americans, but at what percentage is that, right? So like that access, like we talk about how small it is for different scholarships and things like that for people that are Black, right, of color. So when it comes to Native Americans, it's even smaller percentage, right? But they are an even smaller percentage of the population, right? So for the government to think about it, they're like, well, there's only this many, that can benefit from it. Why would we do that? Okay, or why would we put the time into that, right? You got to make noise for it, right? If you're, 0.1% of the population or whatever that is, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to be that
Right.
wheel, you know what I mean? Like you don't have maybe they do have an equivalent to NAACP or something like that, and I'm just not aware
Right,
of
which
it.
I believe they do. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head, right? But I believe there is like a league or something of that nature that does represent the population. But
I know
I
they have
think a
different
lot.
tribes. Like I know they have different ones for different tribes, but I'm talking about like
Right.
NAACP. Like it is Black people as a whole. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
is there one, or is it the Cherokee tribe has their own that does this? Chippewa does this, or you know what I'm saying? Like
Right, right, right. This brings up an interesting point. Like, with our level of knowledge of it, right? Like, I definitely would like to have somebody come on the show that actually has this experience or this knowledge to discuss it. I just timing, as well as I literally didn't know anybody who could come in to discuss it. But and kind of my issue with, because I'm sure there's scholarships and there's opportunities and what have you, but it's the pipeline to get to it, right? Like you can't just say like we have a bunch of college scholarships for you. I don't know why anybody's not taking it, right? As opposed to saying like we built a pipeline to get you to there, to get you the scholarship, right? Like there's tons of scholarships out there, but they go on, like, just in general, right? When it comes to different ethnicities, but when it comes to obtaining them, like, did you build them a grade school, middle school, high school pipeline that will then get them into college, to have the grades, to have the knowledge, to then utilize said scholarship? Um, it's all about building those bridges, and I think this might be the case as well, right? Like where there is funding and opportunities, but have you given them the ability to get to that funding and opportunity to then capitalize on it? And I would argue to say no, probably not, because it is such, like you said, it's a smaller population. So are they being targeted and to uh, grow and to gain these things? I think not. But again, I can't speak from experience.
so you bring up a good point in that, yes, and I think that's why Melinda Gates like went and did all of this, right? Like so started this up. So like they talk about the representation that's here for Reboot, that's um like trying to get in on this, and they have big names. Like when you look at the names that are contributing to this, you got Comcast, NBC Universal, Norton, Walmart, Intel, Microsoft, Riot Games, even, right? Like Verizon, Qualcomm, F5, Dell. Like they have so many partners um that have gotten in on this, you know what I mean? Adobe, Salesforce, like Amazon, like they have so many that are in here on this, that like these are major companies, you know what I mean? And again, so like it could help. It could be one of those things where it's like, oh, Melinda Gates Foundation, yeah, we're on board, right? Like we know there's money there. You know what I'm saying? Like this will happen. This will get some good exposure. That could be, why they're getting in on it. But like put the money where the mouth is my thing, right? Like try to develop those avenues like you were talking about before, where the different pipelines are there, where you have Microsoft and Google, standing up centers in, I think it was Atlanta or wherever it was. We did a story on that a
Right.
while ago.
Georgia, and
Somewhere.
yeah, I forget where
Alabama, I
else.
think, was the other one. I think it might have been
Yes. Yep.
Alabama. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean that is what is needed, right? So but to my second point, right? Not to belay this, but like I wonder also, so when it comes to there being such a small population of Native American, Black, and Latina get into the field, is it one of those things that because they're women, they end up going into fields that are generally stereotyped to be for women, right? Are they trying to be more of a nurse, of a teacher, things of that nature? Do they think these opportunities are not available to them. So like, do they hear that it's a good old boys club, and they're like, well, I have no problem getting in to be a teacher, I have no problem getting in to be a nurse, and they just don't try, right? And I'm not saying that to victim blame and say that that is the case, but there are some times where people are just like, man, I know this is going to be hard, and I know this will be a way for me to progress with my life, right? Like, you can make a good living being a nurse, you know what I mean? So like, is that something that they're going to be doing because it's the easier path, And how do we make that, how do we get rid of that stigma, right? Like, where it's, where it's a majority white and male, profession. Like, how do we advertise that? Like, how does that get done? I don't have the answer for that, right? I asked that rhetorically, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
also,
No, that's true. And we talked about it, I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago, how kind of like DNI was being shed, DE&I was being shed because of the layoffs and what have you. But there are some companies that still are focused on it. Like I had a opportunity to meet with members from Booz Allen Hamilton, and they have a very strong DE&I program where they have a podcast as well as a magazine, and they have different groups. So you have the women group, the Black group, Hispanic, so on and so forth, right? Like people who have neurodiverse, or I can't remember the name of it is, but people who have challenges, they have their representation as well. So they still exist, but it's like really big corporations that are doing this. And doing it well. So in this article, it talks about Natives Rising. It's a nonprofit organization with indigenous community members spanning more than 100 tribes, right? So if you want to be an ally, or you want to learn more about this organization and how it helps Native Americans, specifically in this case, Native American women, get into tech, definitely do some research. I'll put a link into the article and what have you, and see how you can help and use your voice. Like you said, Melinda Gates may just be that catalyst in this case that brought in all these other companies. Like that, like everybody doesn't have that type of money. Everyone is not one of the richest people in the world. But what I'm saying is, if you have a voice where you can, you're a hiring manager, or you are a recruiter, or you are, someone who has influence on hiring process, or recruiting process, or bringing people in, or just educating about these opportunities. Like you said, like maybe because of the stigma, they're not necessarily heading towards this particular opportunity, because there's other opportunities that pay well but easier, right? Not sort of against the current in this case, where there is a heavy current in cyber, because there's such a disproportionate amount of people in cyber who look and come from similar communities, right? Like we say, access pipelines, like they bring people in who they know, right? Like they have a background for Silicon Valley or Ivy League this or Ivy League that, right? And there's only certain people who attend those type of schools and those opportunities. So they bring in people who, again, it's just self replicating, so to speak. So if you want to, change that, and you have the ability, you have the voice of influence, then definitely check out this organization and see what you can do to help out. But I thought it was a really good article, and it brought something to my attention, because I did not know the population was that small. And 2052 is a minute from now, right? So what will change by 2052, with especially like look at Chat GPT, like AI is through the roof. Like, is that going to disrupt the market where we have less opportunities, because now bots are doing the majority of our work, especially in entry-level positions and things of that nature. So like the landscape can change a lot by 2052 is what I'm saying. And that could be either an opportunity, or it could be another hindrance, a roadblock. So but no, I thought it's good discussion. Again, in the future, I'd like to have somebody on with more of the practical experience, more of the intersectionality. Is that one where like a Native woman, like I'm a Black male, like the intersections. There
someone
you
that
go.
meets that demographic, right? Yeah.
Right. To have this discussion instead of two handsome bearded men discussing women in cybersecurity. But definitely continue to check us out.